Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed a Tuesday edition of Middays with you as we take you up to 6 o'clock on what has turned out to be an absolutely wild day in the NBA. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quiñones. 2 hours to play with. As I mentioned, we'll take up to 6 o'clock straight up on this 1st of July, 2025. We say adios, vaya con Dios to June. Hello to Julio. And that's where we're at on what's turned out to be another, by the way, kind of sticky, hot, humid day down the Jersey Shore, up and down the East Coast. Oh, by the way, the Phillies already postponed tonight's game. Go figure, because of weather. It'll be a double dip. We'll get into that. Busy day. Get in on the conversation. We are live, powered by our wonderful friends over at TriX57. It's an easy way to get social with us. Facebook, IG, and X, TriX57.com. Or you can simply follow me on social media at RichQ on Q, TikTok, RichQ on the mic. Jonathan Marshall will join me at 4:30-ish. We had to bump him back a couple minutes. Lloyd Vance in the 5 o'clock hour, as we will run through the NFL, get you caught up to speed on what's going on in the NFL. As we like to say, a little news and notes. And obviously, we will get into what has just transpired in the NBA. I mean, it's been, you want to talk about bizarre. The NBA free agency period, when it opens up, we always see these moves starting to kind of trickle out, get leaked out, start to fall into place even before the deadline, right? That 12 o'clock, 11:59 p.m. shift over to 12 o'clock. And how about the news regarding the Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks? And the Indiana Pacers losing. I mean, think about this now. The Indiana Pacers losing a veteran in Miles Turner, who goes to the hated Milwaukee Bucks. And conversely, the Milwaukee Bucks turn around and they waive Damian Lillard, and he's coming off that injury. We'll get into the monies in that regard. You got the Kings maxing out Schroeder with the big move. You got the Raptors coming up with a big time move. You got some minor moves with the Philadelphia 76ers. But the move with the Bucks waiving Lillard and Miles Turner now going to Indiana, it does change the complexion even more so in the Eastern Conference. It changes the complexion more so in the Eastern Conference now, because Indiana's already dealing with the injuries to Tyrese Halliburton. You got to believe right now, you trade a veteran, a mainstay, a guy that's been with the Pacers for how long now? You trade a mainstay in Turner, and you've got a big, right, if you're Milwaukee, but you lose that veteran pros pro, that contributor if you're Indiana. Carlisle's got to be fuming. Halliburton's got to be fuming. You got the longest tenured player at 10 seasons with the franchise. And I'll tell you this, I think ultimately it probably took a lot of people by surprise. He was a huge part of that success. You're talking about a 6'10", 6'11" big man, opened up space on the floor, can, guard the rim, can do what he needs to do rebound wise, had a career best shooting percentage of close to 40% from beyond the arc, averaging 16-7, mixed in with a couple blocks here and there, and, played well during the playoffs, especially the NBA finals. Now he goes to Milwaukee, which now will open up to Gianna's questions in a moment. But the Milwaukee Bucks waived Damian Lillard, and they're stretching, and I'll get into that. They are stretching the remaining $113 million on his contract, and they're doing that so they can acquire Turner. And that's pretty much going to be a done deal. Turner's contract with the Bucks, 4 years, $107 million. I'm reading right here. Let me get more of the particulars. It includes a player option for year 4 in 2028, 2029. He also has a 15% trade kicker. So that's a full 15% trade kicker, according to multiple sources who are telling Shams and ESPN. Now, Lillard had 2 seasons in Milwaukee, and he's coming off that injury, the torn Achilles, had that surgery in May, never wanted to go to Milwaukee, just was that consummate pro. Now, this is crazy. And if you're, Damian Lillard, how are you not going to welcome this release, right? Because now you're going to get all of your 113 million owed. All of your 113 million owed. Now he can basically choose his next destination and his landing spot. But I'm telling you, man, that stretch provision right in the CBA. So now what happens is because they waived him prior to August 29th, Milwaukee can now use that quote stretch provision. So for those that might not be very familiar with it, what happens is in the CBA, you're leaving now future draft assets untouched. So for salary cap purposes, the Bucks can stretch, like the theatrics, stretch his remaining 2 years to 5. So they can pay him $22.5 million per year, but the stretch salary can't exceed 15% of the salary cap, which I double checked is right around $24 million. It does change the complexion of the Eastern Conference. And now you have to wonder what this means for Giannis, because yesterday we brought it up. I mean, he seemed like he was ecstatic, right? He wanted to be that, that loyal player, finished a career with the Milwaukee Bucks. And now as it stands, who knows? I mean, he's probably not happy at all, with this move, but this is the NBA. And we've talked about it for how long now? These moves, just again, they constantly happen. And I think Milwaukee, am I going to tell you that Milwaukee got better? Well, if they keep Giannis and Turner, listen, and I didn't even get into the rest of the Eastern Conference with the Atlanta Hawks. Because as much as I was kind of being dismissive with the Atlanta Hawks quietly are making moves that tell you they are trying to go all in right now. They're trying to sign those impact players. They're trying to build upon last season, build upon a record of 40-42. They know in that Southeast division, you've got Orlando, you got Miami, Charlotte, Washington. They could compete. And, again, everyone, I can see already with the Lillard, I can't believe it. Here's a guy that, tore the ACL. He's rehabbing. Where's the loyalty? Come on, man. He's getting, so much money back. And he gets to land in a destination. He gets to choose his next spot, which is a rarity. That's a rarity. And he'll have a say. He's a very good player. But you deal with these types of injuries and you don't know what you're getting back. And like I said, it didn't work out for him in Milwaukee. He battled through a lot of injuries. He battled through some adversity. He's a good player. He's a stand-up player. And if I'm him, he's got to be absolutely giddy because not only is he released, but there's money in the bank. There's money in the bank. And now I get to choose my spot, right? I get to choose my spot. Turner's going to be a welcome addition, period. And I already see the reports. Giannis is not happy now. Is this a tipping point? Is this a tipping point for Giannis right now in Milwaukee? And if that's the case, does it open up a conversation when it comes to, say, the Knicks trying to make a move and a push and a play for Giannis? And I don't want to hear this loyalty nonsense because at the end of the day, he's getting paid, Damian Lillard, right? I don't want to hear this, you're sacrificing the money in the peak years and, you tear your ACL, you tear your ACL. Again, the franchise waived him. It's not like he had 15 years in one uniform. It was 2 cups of coffee. And I'll tell you right now, Miami is probably going to be hot and heavy over Lillard. You know it, and I know it. But the NBA free agent period is just absolutely, it's crazy. It's absolute. It really is. I mean, I can't wait to get into this with Jonathan Marshall and still a little more of the fallout with the Beasley stuff as well. I'll get to the comments. Some of you guys are already asking about, LeBron and the contract, and maybe the Knicks have a shot. I don't want LeBron James, to be honest with you. I don't. I really don't. Why? Because we're going to sit there and say Mike Brown's going to be the new coach of the New York Knicks. So he already has that built-in relationship with LeBron James and the run that they've had. I just don't care. I'm over LeBron James. LeBron James is not making the Knicks a title contender. He's just not at this point of his career. Sorry, not happening. It's not happening. Now I know what everyone's going to sit there. Well, you got Bridges, OG, Robinson, Jalen, LeBron. There you go. That's going to propel the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals. Well, the Knicks went to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks were right there to win when it counted the most, right? I mean, let's just be realistic here. The Knicks were extremely, extremely, extremely close to going to the NBA Finals. But ultimately, they lost in 6 games to Indiana, and they had an opportunity to win that game in at least 6 or potentially 7. They never got to that spot. They never got to that place. But the money, the contracts, absolutely insane in the NBA. Man chimes in like he does early. Let's go already. 4 o'clock. Read the room. You know how it is. Isn't there a LeBron to Knicks rumor swirling? Let it swirl. Let it swirl. Let it swim. Let it sink. Let it float. I don't care. It's not going to, again, make me change how I feel about the Knicks right now until the Knicks get a head coach. Again, put a head coach in place, then we can talk. Then we can talk a little bit. But right now, there's no rhyme or reason to what this team's doing, what this franchise is doing. None. But man, the NBA decides, NFL, have a back seat for a little bit. Remember, too, all these deals that were coming down, it was always supposed to be like 11.59, right? 11.59. By the way, Jericho Sims has also agreed to a 2-year deal with the Bucks. I mean, that's crazy. That is, he's got a player option second season. So again, now you got the big man. He played in a career high 53 games last season and all 5 playoff games. So it is steady. It is fast. It is furious. We'll get you some Sixers thoughts as well. As I mentioned, Phillies postponed tonight. Summer League right around the corner in the NBA. Miami Pro League as well. NBA free agency. Lloyd Vance at 5:05 on the NFL. Today, we break down the AFC West. The AFC West, and we got to sprinkle in and mix in some news and notes going on in the NFL as well. I saw that Darren Waller is, quote, coming out of retirement. I guess the music, the whole rap game didn't work out for him. He was an absolute bust for the Giants. Absolute bust. See, here's the thing. The fact that he, quote, retired and he's still under contract with the Giants, so technically it'll be a trade. So I'm sure it'll be like a 5th or 6th round draft pick. The fact that he pulled a "I'm retiring" is telling to me about the Giants. It is. I mean, he had all these goofy comments on his podcast. He basically informed the Giants he planned to retire. He announced he was going to retire. Then he announced he's returning to the league. And then on Tuesday, he was traded with a conditional 7th-round pick to the Dolphins in exchange for a 6th-round pick. There you go. And by the way, he's not the first player to turn around and kind of dance around that and say, I'm going to retire and come out of retirement, step away. I mean, there are notable players who have done it, right? But it's kind of telling, is it just possible that you decided, hey, man, you just didn't want to be part of the Giants, right? We just didn't, I didn't want to be here anymore. And he had a quote on his pod, and I'll talk to Lloyd about this, but he wrote or said, it was in the first quarter of the game, we were running like this counter lead running play, and I'm kind of like leading through the whole, like I'm a fullback, and the play is working, but I sit down on the sideline after a drive where we ran it 3 times, and I'm like, what the blank am I doing with my life? I'm out here playing fullback. I don't even want to do this blank anymore. Now, is that because you were with the Giants on a bad football team, or is that what you really felt? Now, again, who knows? They brought him in. They thought he was going to contribute. It didn't work out. It was as bad as the Kenny Golladay contract as well. Golladay gave you 1 block in a wild card game to spring Barkley for about a 15-yard run when they beat the Vikings. So again, to me, this dude had an opportunity to kind of write his own script with his career because he's gotten a lot of chances, right? He's gotten a lot of chances. We know about his background, substance abuse, bounced around with Baltimore, had 2 really good years with the Raiders. and then obviously was still dealing with that substance abuse and problems. And the Giants throw him a lifeline, right? And he really doesn't give him anything. So I can't take what he says at this point serious. Hey, wish you the best of luck. Giants get a draft pick out of it. Fine. But ultimately, man, I think it's more telling about the state of the Giants and also this player, because he's also going to be, if he's doing this, if he did that with the Giants, he might turn around and be disgruntled in Miami and then call it a day 4 or 5 games into the season. So we got a lot of NFL to get into, as I alluded to. NBA free agency. We'll mix in a little baseball. Jonathan Marshall at about 15. Lloyd Vance at 5:05. AFC West, how the AFC West is going to be won. We've got the win totals. I'll flash them up for you right now before we hit the break. Chiefs sitting at 11.5. Chargers at 10.5. Broncos 9.5. Raiders at 5.5. So you got KC 11.5. Chargers 10.5. Tells you where the betting public's lying with the Chargers and what they expect from them this season. Harbaugh and, of course, Justin Herbert. You got the Broncos, Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and then you got the Raiders sitting there. A lot of questions regarding the Vegas Raiders at 5.5. As always, we're cranking up on a Tuesday edition. Middays with Q. 16 past the 4 o'clock hour. We are live Monday to Friday from 4 to 6 on X, on the YouTube channel, on Kicks, on Facebook, on TriX57 as well. Very, very easy to get connected with us. All you got to do, log on to TriX57 on Facebook, like, comment, share the page, follow them on XIG. And you can also follow me on IG and X at RichQ on Q, and of course on TikTok, RichQ on the mic. All right, so we're just cranking it up on a Tuesday down the shore. We'll get you caught up to speed, everything going on in the NBA, NFL. And as I did mention at the top of the show, if you are hoping to see the Phillies tonight, catch them in action. Per the Phillies, they are postponing tonight's contest due to weather. So that will be made up as a double dip. Right now, Yankees up on top of the Blue Jays, bottom of the third, 2-0. So good to see the Yankees actually scratch out a couple runs ASAP. One quick point on the Phillies I did want to make, and I don't know how many people are really watching a lot of baseball or a lot of NL East baseball, or really in our backyard. We do have a lot of Phillies fans that do watch religiously. Their pitching staff, we talked about their horses that they have, whether it's Luzardo, whether it's Sanchez, whether it's Suarez. I mean, I gotta say right now, the move for the Phillies to go and get Zach Wheeler, which again, it's amazing to think Zach Wheeler is now in his fifth season pitching with the Phillies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his sixth season with the Phillies. He's coming off a career high 16 wins. He's 8-3 right now. I would say front runner, NL, Cy Young candidate. But man, it might turn out to be a Hall of Fame type of move for Wheeler and the Phillies. I mean, that's how dominant he has been on the mound. And I know it's a different type of era in baseball where you're not going to let your dogs or workhorses go out and throw those complete games. But this dude is flat out nasty. He is an innings eater. He's come off some injuries in the past. Remember 2015-16, he had that UCL in his right elbow. He signed that 1-year deal with the Mets, kind of like prove it. And then boom, what happens? The Phillies signed him as a free agent, and they gave him a boatload of money, 5 years, $118. And let me just say, he has given them a ridiculous return on their investment. A ridiculous return on their investment. His numbers don't really do justice. He is an innings eater. He is a strikeout pitcher. He's got great control. He's pitching absolutely lights out this season. Absolutely lights out. What did he do last night? 8 innings, 6 hits, didn't give up a run, struck out 10. He's been phenomenal. Steve Gardner next week on some baseball. All right, quick timeout. We'll crank it up on the other side, 20 past 4 o'clock hour on a Tuesday edition. Middays with Q coming at you on this 1st of July, 2025. Get in on the conversation as always. Hashtag MWQ, Middays with Q. Got a lot of tweets coming in. Got some Facebook comments as well. Got some YouTube comments as well on the NBA, free agency, Lillard, the Pacers, NFL talk as well. We'll get you guys going on the other side. Keep it locked in. We will take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on a Tuesday down the shore.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, 421 on a Tuesday edition, Middays with Q. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quiñones, right here on X, YouTube, also Kicks, Facebook Live, and of course, TriX57. Got some comments coming in as we speak on NBA, little baseball, a little Wheeler as well. Let's rip through some of these comments, see what you guys have to say on a very busy Tuesday. What a joke Waller is. Yeah, I mean, I can't, man, you're right. I can't look at this guy and say he's going to be a legit pro. Like at this stage of the game, at this stage of his career, I think it's utter nonsense. Let me retire. Let me go try the rap game. I'm not happy with the Giants. I want to take my ball and go home. And here we go. Yeah, 19 and 20. He was a great tight end. 197 receptions, 2,300 yards, 12 touchdowns. He did that for the Raiders. They gave him the money. They gave him 3 years, $51 million. Again, trading him to the Giants the following year. It just did not pan out for Waller in New York, and who knows if it's going to pan out for him with the Miami Dolphins. What do we got here? It's okay to laugh. By the way, I like that handle. Wheeler's ERA in the month of June. It's ridiculous. It's 0.58. It's utterly ridiculous. And go back to the 2-0 loss against the Astros. He only gave up 1 run on 3 hits, and I believe he struck out 8 or 9. I mean, he's got 42 strikeouts right now in the month of June. He's given up 1 home run in his last 5 starts. He's eaten innings. He's given them 6+ every time out. I mean, I don't know where we're going to rank this when it's all said and done, but if you look at Wheeler and the way he's pitching, he's easily on his way to win, 20 games. And a lot of times we say, that is a rarity in today's MLB, in today's baseball, especially with pitchers. De facto comes in with a, what else is new? Passive-aggressive shot. You just mushed Wheeler like you mushed Alvarado last month. See, that shows me that once again, de facto not reading the room because it wasn't Alvarado. Now, for bonus points, if you recall, what pitcher was it that I mushed, who, oh, by the way, has rebounded nicely? It was not Alvarado. So you might want to back up, as you say, bookmark, read the room, mark the tape and go back. Wasn't Alvarado. I was extremely high on a pitcher who currently pitches for the Philadelphia Phillies, who is pitching extremely well to start the season and then got raked on the coals twice. But now he's actually been able to right the ship. So it was not Alvarado. It was Jesus Luzardo. And yes, if you recall, I think I said 2 or so weeks ago at plus 1,800, take a flyer on him. Now, Luzardo had those 2 starts where he really got roughed up. In fact, to be fair to De Facto's point, it was after they beat Colorado I think it was a road game 7-4. Luzardo pitched six, I think six and a third, gave up a couple hits, one run, struck out 10. He was phenomenal. I think it was that night, that Wednesday or Thursday, or maybe Friday, I came on the air because he was next in line to start on a Sunday against um, Oakland. And I recall saying on the air, take a flyer at 1,800 right now. He's a dark horse to win the NL Cy Young Award winner. And then he promptly comes back, and his back-to-back starts, he gives up um, 3 runs, right? I think it was to the A's, shelled. He got destroyed against Milwaukee, where he gave up 12 runs, but he bounced back. He steadied the ship a little bit. I know the last time out he lost on the road to Atlanta, but again, he's 7-4. So they'll right the ship. They'll right the ship, and he's still trying to find his way, I think, with the Phillies, to be quite honest with you. It's his first year in the Phillies, and he's already on pace to have a career high in wins. He was 10-10 with the Marlins a couple seasons ago, but it was Luzardo. So, as we say, read the room. Luzardo, Luzardo, Luzardo. DJ chimes in North Bergen. Wow, listening on Facebook, Trix57. We appreciate that, D. He wants to talk a little NBA and says, do you think now this will sway Giannis to not want to stay in Milwaukee because of this move? It's business, ultimately. It's always business, right? We say it's business, it's never personal. I'm sure that Giannis has a hand in what's being said. He's got input. He's earned that right. We know the NBA, I talk about it all the time, Players League, Players League, Players League. But is it enough where his input is going to, sway Milwaukee brass either way? Like, are they going to make the moves just to appease him? They already won a championship with him. They want to keep him in Milwaukee starting to finish his career. The other story too, which it's not really a story, but this is what happens when you're a champion, the best player in the game, and an NBA MVP, SGA, 4 years, $285 million. Super max contract extension, which is the richest annual salary for a player in league history. Now, just go back for a moment or two. Here's a player. This is crazy when you think about it. Here's a player that was drafted and played with the Clippers, which is like almost an afterthought. And then he's just blossomed now with OKC, and now he gets a supermax contract. Absurd, right? Absurd, absurd, absurd. Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. That's right. I think the Mets owe him about $2 million. Yep. I feel as though that contract, it's been going on for like 50 years now, right? That was, that he hasn't played, Bonilla hasn't played in 20 years. He hasn't played in 20 years. Mets pay him $1.19 million every July 1st. When is that ending? Wow. So this Bobby Bonilla Day will end in 2035. It's crazy. That is absurd. So it started 2011 through 2035. Hasn't played in 20 years. Bobby Bonilla. Oh my goodness. That's not a bad day, right? You wake up on July 1st and you're saying to yourself, hey, I'm about to cash in about a million or so, right? About $1 million or so. Jonathan Marshall in a couple moments. I want to get into, we got a lot, by the way. I see a lot of Sixers comments coming in. We will definitely get into that. We will get into all the NBA free agency moves as well. So we will certainly, I want to get his thoughts, obviously, ultimately, because it's been such a busy day in the NBA. I mean, it's actually, when you really think about this, it's almost, it comes to, I guess you can say, a level of absurdity when we're talking about these contracts in the NBA, because you can be a player that, again, is just sitting there, and maybe you're a role player, right? Maybe you're coming off the bench. Maybe you're a player that's not averaging 20, right? I mean, it sometimes it just doesn't matter. Maybe you're sitting there and you're a player that's uh, 12, 11 a night, right? And you're going to be able to capitalize big time. That is where we're at right now in the NBA. That's where we're at. You get these super max, these max contracts, these deals. I mean, it's absurd the money that's being made by some of these players. Now, again, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you anything different. I'm just gonna tell you that it's crazy. All right. Jonathan Marshall on the other side, we're gonna take a very quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We're gonna reset the table, keep it locked in. 4:30 on a Tuesday edition, Middays with Q.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609 484 9800.
All right, 4:31 on a busy Tuesday edition, Middays with Q. Rich Quiñones here. We'll take up to 6 o'clock straight up, 4 to 6 Monday to Friday. TriX57, Facebook, IG, YouTube, X as well. We got our guy. I think is he wearing a Phillies hat right there, and he knows they're rained out tonight. I thought maybe it was a Sixers hat. You can tell he's growing the beard, which means he's probably not sleeping a lot because of the baby and the newborn. He's
Yeah.
got to keep up to speed, everything going on with the NBA news and notes. Does a great job, WMUR, and as we like to say, the Boston area. My guy, Jonathan Marshall. How you been, my friend?
I'm exhausted, boss. I can't lie to you. I'm tired. I just that's all I got. I'm exhausted on top of I feel like I miss every minute that I'm with the little guy. I
Yeah.
miss something in free agency. You got to update me. What has there been a major has Giannis been traded? Has LeBron been traded? Like what's happening?
Well,
What's
listen,
going on?
I mean, we'll get to LeBron in a minute. We'll get to the big G Giannis not happy going on. I mean, think about this, right? SGA with the Supermax. We'll get into Beasley as well. Let's
Yeah.
start with the obvious, right? Uh, the Indiana Pacers, they got to be livid right now, right? Halliburton, Carlisle, the brass. Turner now goes to the dreaded Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks then turn around and they waive Lillard. Talked about that stretch compensation, that contract.
Mhm.
Does Now, again, when we look at this move right now, is this addition by subtraction? Is it a wash? Obviously, it weakens Indiana. Does it strengthen the Milwaukee Bucks?
So they got better, right? Miles Turner is a good player, but what's the end game for the Bucks here? You're still relying on Kyle Kuzma to be a productive, winning basketball player. As far as I'm concerned, he's not any of those. And so I still don't trust this roster. They just traded Pat Connaughton. Obviously, Dame wasn't going to be playing next year anyway for the most part, and he's been waived now. And so, in the grand scheme of things, is Miles Turner a ceiling raiser or is he a floor raiser?
I think he's a steady player.
But is steady going to get you championship level play? I just
I
don't
don't
think
believe
he's
so.
that much of an impact player. Sorry. With
Yeah.
all respect to what he's done for Indiana, I don't you got to have more than that. And when Milwaukee was at their best, they had a Chris Middleton, right? At his peak. They had a Drew Holiday. They had a competent roster, a complete roster. Guys who were committed defensively, guys who were serious about winning. I don't see enough of that on this Bucks roster. I just don't.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes you make moves to make moves, right? And I'm wondering now, in your estimation, in your opinion, do you believe this move kind of signals the end for Giannis in Milwaukee?
It should. I think both parties should quit doing this dance. And this is what annoys me. It annoyed me with the Dame in Portland situation. Look, this isn't going anywhere, but nobody wants to be the bad person, right? Somebody has to make that decision, say this isn't going anywhere. For Milwaukee, it's complicated because you're Milwaukee, you're a smaller market. You're not going to be attracting top free agents. Like you're going to be building through the draft and, shoring up the roster via free agency, veteran pieces, what trades you can do. But Giannis, having a guy like Giannis is big business for a Milwaukee Bucks franchise, right? And so once you trade him, you're signaling to your fans that it's going to be some rough times here. Like we're bottoming out, literally. But in the grand scheme of things, if you're Milwaukee, you got your championship.
Of
That's
course.
more than what you could have imagined, right? Like you're Milwaukee, you're the Bucks, you got a championship. In this era of parity, you should be thankful for that. And for Giannis, you know, saying you want to compete for a championship. Well, we talk about basketball logic, Q, and sometimes I got to question some of these NBA players. What are you saying? You want to compete for a championship, but you're on a roster. You see a roster that clearly is far from a championship roster. So what
Do
is
you?
you can't have it both ways. Either
Yeah.
you're going to stand down and stay there, or you're going to say, look, this isn't where I want to be. I want to win. Like you can't play both sides of the fence. Like it has to be stand down on what you want and stick to it.
What was this move by the Bucks with the release now and the fact that, I mean, if you're Damian Lillard, you're like, hey, I can pick and choose where I want to go and I'm getting guaranteed money. Like it's a very rare that we've seen that stretch,
Yeah.
that payment, so to speak. Was this a panic move? I mean, look, people are saying, where's the loyalty? Well, hold on. You got injured. You had a cup of coffee in Milwaukee. You didn't spend your whole career with the Milwaukee Bucks. It was 2 seasons. You were pros pro. It happens. You're cashing in no matter what. Is this a panic move by the Bucks?
Maybe not panic, but maybe was it a wise move for the Bucks? Right? Like, I mean, this next year with Dame is a wash, right?
Yeah.
As the years go on, as he gets older,
Yep.
what are you getting out of a Dame anyway, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
okay, we have Giannis. He wants to see us try to compete for a championship. What else can we do? Miles Turner is the best they can get when it comes to shoring up the front court. So, I mean, what do we expect the Bucks front office to do to try to make this team get better, right? And Miles Turner is a guy who, they're going to lose Brooke Lopez, obviously, and so who else do we have to replace him? Like,
Yeah.
got to do something, right? And so, if this was the best situation for us to add to our front court, we got to do it. And the loyalty situation, Q, like at this point, there shouldn't be any outcry. This is pro sports. There's no
Of course.
loyalty from the
Of course.
teams and the players. So let's just stop the facade, right? And anyway, as far as I'm concerned, did Dame even want to be in Milwaukee? He
No,
wanted
he didn't. He made that
to
clear.
be like, so what do we? So for Dame, looking at it like, look, I got my money. Now I can decide where I want to go, whether it's Miami, wherever it is, and rehab for the next year and come back and we'll see what happens. But the whole loyalty outcry, I don't want to hear it. I'm over it. Like this is business. The players know it. The owners know it. It is what it is. Let's move on.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, now, if I think it opens up, Pandora's box really in the Eastern Conference. Let's
Oh,
forget
for
about
sure.
Boston,
Yeah.
Indiana with their own issues. And a couple of the guys been getting on me. I haven't really given the flowers now, but look at Atlanta. Just quietly, this team won 40 games in a very weak division. They've got some depth, they've got some talent. We know they've got some scorers. Now you think maybe Atlanta's going to sneak up on everyone in the Eastern Conference.
I like what Atlanta's done. They've added some solid guys who have specific roles. A Nikhil Alexander Walker, a Luke Kennard. In addition to the young pieces that you had, Dyson Daniels, one of the most improved guys last year. Jalen Johnson was on a tear last year. He really leveled up before he got hurt. That's a guy that I think people need to really pay attention to this next year. Zachary Reese coming back for his second year. They have guys around Trae Young who are long, who will defend. I mean, when you look at, we talked about it with Indiana. I think Atlanta is sort of in that mold. Guys who will lock down and defend, guys who can actually handle and create and be basketball players out there, right? And so you add that with a Trae Young who doesn't really have to focus defensively on the top guys because you have a Dyson Daniels, a Reese Nikhil Alexander-Walker defensively, Atlanta can just be treacherous. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. This is their shot.
Top 5 in Eastern Conference?
Based off on paper, yes. Based off Milwaukee, we assume will fall
doesn't
back.
Win you championships.
Exactly. Though. Boston, we assume will take a step back, right? Do you want to believe in the Sixers? We'll see. It's shaky because Joel Embiid's knees. It's a shaky foundation. And so I think this is a great opportunity. Indiana, obviously, with Halliburton. This is a great opportunity for Atlanta with Trae Young, right? We talk about Trae Young and can he be the guy to lead that franchise to a championship? This is the year that Trae Young can do it. He has to do it this year. This is the great. This will probably be the best opportunity for a lot of these teams. Orlando, Atlanta, the Cavaliers, Philly. This is your year. Your Knicks, right? Like, I love what you guys have done. Jordan Clarkson. Like, I think that's a good signing, right? And so there's a few teams who can really take advantage of this opportunity this year and make an Eastern Conference Finals run.
Jonathan Marshall, kind enough to join us for a couple moments. WMUR talking a lot of NBA free agency periods, which is never a sleeper anymore. It's not 11:59, 12 o'clock. These stories, these deals are being dropped left and right. SGA cashing in Supermax. That's what happens when you're the MVP and you win a championship. I want to get a couple thoughts, and I want to turn our attention to Beasley, but a couple guys commenting in. Wanted to get your thoughts on just some NBA hoops. My man, it's okay to laugh. Yabu no longer Sixers. How do they pivot at the 4 spot? This is a great question, right? Precious, Drummond rumored to be on the block. Thoughts. So they got to add right there. Sixers making a couple minor moves here and there. How about the landscape of the Sixers right now, presently constructed?
They got to shore up that 4 spot, and that's been a position that, I mean, Yabu was a great addition last year, and there was always a chance, especially with how he played. He took a bet on himself for that 1-year deal.
Yep.
And look, kudos for him for betting on himself and getting the deal that he wants and was looking for. Right,
$12 million.
Look, salute to him for a guy who was out the league a couple years ago, right, and had a big showing in the Olympics for France. So that's a position that they need to shore up. They need a guy that can.
How about the kid they just signed? Trendon Watford, the 2-year 5.3.
He's interested because, I think he actually showed some things last year with the Nets as far as being able to pass the ball, being able to handle it a little bit. I think at that 4 spot in today's game, you got to have a little versatile skill set, and I think I like their thinking when it comes to that. Instead of having the 4-man who really is limited in their basketball abilities, having a guy like Watford who can actually do multiple things, especially in today's landscape. I think that's a pretty good signing. So yeah.
I got some guys on Facebook and kind of what the commenter just said, Jay, Kevin, Tom at Summers Point, Bobby D saying, hey, Q, now the East is really wide open. I think that's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Is it not? Because, listen, I'm not going to tell you the Knicks lost in 6 Indiana, right? Indiana goes the distance against OKC. They lose in 7 NBA Finals. They've got their injuries. Boston's got their injuries. Orlando coming on the rise. Miami's still trying to figure out. Miami might turn around and give Lillard $100 million. Who knows, right? We just don't know. Milwaukee's making, their subtractions, but you still have Giannis. The Sixers, everything's contingent on the health of Embiid. I discount Toronto, Washington, Brooklyn. Right now on July 1st, based on what we've seen the last 24, 48 hours, kind of handicap the top 2-3 teams in the Eastern Conference.
And we're assuming health isn't an issue.
Sure, go ahead. Why not?
Because we're talking about this one caveat with one particular team.
It is, but I can say that with every team if Brunson goes down with the Knicks. But to your point, yes.
I think Cleveland has to be number one, and considering the chemistry, these guys have been together. Kenny Atkinson has been there now. He has a year under his belt with that team, right? So they had the best record in the Eastern Conference this past season. There's no excuse for Cleveland not to be the top team in the Eastern Conference once again this year. I don't want to hear any excuses.
Hold on a second now. Mm-hmm. Were they in your mind, a legit? When I say a legit, I mean, look, hell, they won 64 games, but they flamed out in the postseason. That's
the thing with the Cleveland Cavaliers team. That coming up this edition of the Eastern Conference, this landscape in a playoff setting with that roster, with the chemistry that they have, should there be any roadblocks?
Yeah, but you can't win 64 games in a regular season and then lose to
Of
How
course.
many games did Indiana win? 40-something odd games
Indiana
this
won
season?
50. Indiana won
50, okay,
50.
50,
50.
but
50.
still, and lose
Yeah.
in 5?
Look, the, they should still be a favorite. They still should be the top. Like, if they're not the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, then something went wrong with that. With that seed, it's just based off of roster, based off last year's production. Strictly regular season, right? Playoff is a whole different conversation. Matchups, we can have that conversation, right? But strictly regular season, the Cavs just start at the top. I think the Knicks should be number 2, right? Based off, once again, Karl Anthony Towns. He's Mikal Bridges, OG, Brunson, like those guys, they have some time together under their belt, right? They have that chemistry. You got to get a head coach, Q. You have to get a head coach. But I still give you guys the second seeding. After that, I really think it's a toss-up. I mean, I can see Orlando being a third seed. I can see Atlanta Hawk being a third seed. If Philly's healthy, I can see them having something to say about the third seed. But I think the Cavs and the Knicks should be the top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference next year. Those should be the 2 favorites right now.
Quick, I want to pivot a little bit. The Malik Beasley, I mentioned this yesterday. I started the show off with this, and I think what we're running into right now is not even just a trending problem at the at the end of the day when it comes to sports and sports betting. But I look at this where, and I got a lot of pushback from listeners yesterday. The NBA made this bed, and now they have to lie in it. And this was years ago when Stern flipped the script on how he felt about sports betting and gambling. And we know that forward-thinking Commissioner Adam Silver, you turn around, everything's brought to you by X, Y, and Z, injuries, props, pre, post, halftime, player of the game. It doesn't matter. Broadcast rights, network, everything is brought to you by an app. DK, MGM, DSI, FanDuel. Look, I know they're going to do their investigation. We already saw it with the Kid Porter. We already saw it with Rozier. Nothing transpired. The Kid Porter got banned for life. I think they're going to find something here with Beasley. If these reports are true, his handle on these sportsbook apps, you go back, the film doesn't lie. I mean, it's a bad look, right? Because player props, you can manipulate it. I think in the NBA, it's a lot easier to kind of manipulate that to your advantage when it comes to betting and kind of beating the house, if you will, than say the NFL. Like if Patrick Mahomes is having pick sixes left and right, either he's just lost it as a quarterback or, he's in cahoots. Something's going on. I think it's a different animal in the NBA. I think it's a lot more easier to manipulate and get away with. I think there's going to be more players coming out. Now, I said this the other day, let them gamble, but not on their respective sports, and regulate it in some capacity. You're not going to prevent them from doing it. But a guy like Beasley, very close to inking a big deal that would have set him up for life, right? In a franchise that wanted him back. Now, all of a sudden, that's off the table. So, you hear this story, this bomb that gets dropped with Beasley and gambling. What's the first reaction?
I'm not shocked. Like the Jonte Porter situation, right? Like, as soon as you hear one story, my initial reaction was like, "Oh, there's definitely more. Like there is definitely more."
Well, it's coming out now that he had financial issues.
Oh, I didn't see that. So
yeah, there's a report according to a lawsuit that was written in the Detroit Free Press. It was a very good article. A lawsuit was filed in April from Hazan Sports Management Group claiming Beasley has missed payments on $650,000 advance, breaching a contract between two parties. They were seeking about $2.25 million in damages. Now, again, you're an NBA player. You're making a couple million. You're going to tell me you can't cut a check for $650,000? Something doesn't add up.
Well, two things come to mind, Q. He has poor management when it comes to finances. What else? What other expenses does he have? Does he have a staff, people on staff that he's paying money to? We don't know his finance. We don't know
$6 million last year with the Pistons,
right?
And he made just shy of $60 million thus far in his career. I just want to throw that out there.
It's disappointing, Q, because how many guys people would love to be in his position to make millions of dollars to play a game. You don't have to do this. You make that money in one game, and you're just throwing it all away. So I don't have pity for guys who just throw it all away when you don't have to, right? And number two, these are still humans. Humans have vices. If you continue to put vices in front of our faces, you can't be surprised when we take part in the vices that we have. And so some of these vices for these guys is gambling. And you continue to push the, like, ESPN Bet is a major, like, all these things are pushed in front of us when it comes to these sporting events. It's on our phone. It's easy access. I can make a bet right now whenever I want.
Yeah, but
Like, it's an issue.
don't you also think, I get it, addictions, vices, you want to steer clear of those certain things, whether you have bad management or not.
Yeah.
But there's also decorum and common
Right.
sense
Of
and
course.
not being dumb about it
Of course.
and just careless. And,
Yeah.
guys were mocking me yesterday because I was reading, hey, apparently his handle was like Beasley at Detroit, the gambling. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but listen, the kid Porter didn't cover his tracks. He
Right.
had guys doing it for him that got leaked. Otani's interpreter, you're going to tell me you check your checkbook, your savings account, you see millions of dollars missing. You're not going to question it. Like,
Right.
Rozier, I feel as though the NBA, this is going to be a major problem with the NBA because they want to get more eyeballs, and now the books are going to be very judicious in their approach and how they lay these props out there.
Mhm.
You don't listen, if you see suspicious activity, if I put $50,000 on a prop, someone's going to be like, wait a second, this is not adding up.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we see like the regular moves when there's $1 million here and there, we see the line will swing a point or so. And typically in the
Right.
NFL, it's more or less because of a quarterback going down or not playing or being benched
Right.
or whatever. That warrants that 2 to 3 to 3 to 5 point swing. In the NBA, it's totally different now with these props.
Right.
So like if I got to keep pushing up, I had Beasley 10 over points and now I'm starting to see this suspicious activity. It also raises a red flag as a gambler if I'm like, wait a second, his player prop for points is now 26, and the last
Yeah.
7 days, the last 7 games, it's been 10. I'm not going to
Yeah.
bet with this app anymore. So it's opening a big can of worms, not only if you're the sports book, if you're the betting apps, but also the NBA, because as you mentioned, if one player has done it or doing it, then I believe there's others that are doing it.
Of course, it's funny. Over the years, I will joke in my group chats that such and such is that's point shaving, just in a joking manner, right? But there's truth to those jokes. And now there was a clip on Twitter. I'm not sure if you saw it that showed Malik Beasley. It was like seconds left in the game. It was, I think,
The
the score
Matador
might be-
defense?
Yeah, it was that. But it was another clip where he raced towards the basket for a quick layup.
Yeah. And I saw the
Just
one on
to
Gary
cover the
Payton Jr.
spread.
too, when he's sweating on the
Right.
sidelines.
And so now, as a fan, you're looking at certain things like, it's 2 seconds left, dude. Why are you so hyped to get this bucket? You're looking at these things differently now, right? You're not just trying to pad. You're not trying to pad your stat line. You're trying to pad something.
Okay, so what happens if the investigation shows that, yes,
Mhm.
you go back, you watch the video. I used this yesterday, the scene in Blue Chips when they were
Mhm.
looking at the point guard, Tony.
Yeah.
And they were like,
Yeah.
no, that's my guy. That's my guy.
Yeah.
And then Nick Nolte's watching him. He's like, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
Horrible shot, horrible pass. And you can tell the kid was on the hook. The kid was in trouble.
Mhm.
So you ban him, right? But the NBA still has a problem. That's my whole point. The NBA is still
Yeah.
like, how do you cover that nugget up? You can't put the Band-Aid on that. You really can't.
It's already been once the can has been opened. This betting and the money that's been pouring into these media companies and leagues, it's open, Q. Like it is what it is. Like there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing.
I went back and, I argue with guys, we're talking 20, 30 plus years ago with the Last Dance in the Bulls dynasty. When
Yeah.
it was, hey man, do me a favor, wink, wink, go
Mhm.
retire for a couple years. Because everyone knew Jordan was a big time gambler.
Of course.
And if you
of
remember,
course.
David Stern was so adamant against sports betting, and then he flipped the
Yeah.
script and he did a 180. Now,
Yeah.
and then what happened years later with Tim Donaghy in that playoff
Yeah.
series? Lakers
Yeah.
take 27 free throws in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Like, so if the refs are on the hook,
Yeah.
then to me, the player, I guess the thing is why? Like, you're making millions of dollars, man. What is it? The action? Are you really in trouble? Is it the juice? Are you bored?
It's hard for me to put myself in the shoes of a guy like Malik Beasley, because I don't have that issue, right? Like I can go on a draft, I can go on an app and make a bet and be okay, not be I don't have an issue with stopping or saying not tonight, not now, right? Like that's not my problem. So it's hard for me to even visualize myself being willing to. That's at my level with not. I have no millions to throw away, right? So I can't imagine being in his spot and just being so foolish or naive to think that I can't get caught. And that's
Yeah.
the issue with a lot of these guys. They think it can't happen to me. Like I got my tracks covered, but no, no, no. You're not above. You're not above um, what can happen and the repercussions. It can happen to you, and it will happen to you if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Like these guys just got to understand. Like you're human. You're not like you're not Teflon. Like these things can happen to you. Like you have to understand that. We've seen it time and time again with their off the court issues. Like we've seen it. Like these guys, they have this mentality like I can do what I want, and there's not going to be any repercussions of it. Like,
But this only, if this suit is accurate and it holds some weight, then this only, it puts them in an even worse light because now you've got motive, right? And now, I mean, again, you're on the cusp of signing a nice contract, right? And now all of a sudden, that deal, you're looking at 3 at 42, 45, and now that's pretty much on hold, right? And you, even if the investigation shows he did nothing wrong, I would still be very hesitant if I was a team to sign him.
the court of public opinion, the jokes are going to fly off. He will, like even Terry Rozier, will always remember the betting
Yeah.
allegations.
Yeah.
So no matter what you do, that will be tied to you forever.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. That's just human nature. So when you bring up Malik Beasley, or the guy who had the betting scandal, yeah. And every questionable play, every questionable move or shot will be looked at. If he's found to be innocent, Q, and he plays this season, the people are going to clip up highlights on Twitter at every bad move that he makes on the court. It's going to happen.
Of course. When he does the YMCA crossover and he can't finish the layup, that's it, man.
Like,
I'm going to look and I'm going to say, oh, look at that, plus 10.
Against your Knicks, right? He dropped the pass, didn't he? So what are we talking about here? All these things, because the allegations are here, everything will be looked at funny in the light. That's just how that's how the game works. I don't make the rules.
No. I mean, but it does, like I said, it makes for very interesting conversation going forward because it does. We've seen in the NHL, we've seen it with Ridley in the NFL, obviously in baseball. I mean, Pete Rose, the most prominent, and it's not going away. And as I mentioned, look, these leagues wanted to get in bed with sports betting and gambling, so they made their bed. No pun intended. Now they got to lie in it. Now they got to lie in it and they got to deal with it. So if people want to rip these leagues right now because of what's going on, and they're going to honestly sit there and say, well, look, everything's rigged. This is, you kind of already know the outcome prior to. Why am I going to bet? This is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
The NBA wants a game 7. They won a game 7. The NFL, wants Kansas City to go through the AFC. They want the Eagles in that, that flex game. They want them to go for home field advantage late in the season. Like all bets are off right now, right? So now we're going to be watching. So, all right, 30 seconds. Will the Knicks have a head coach by next week?
If they call me, they will. I'm ready to go, Q.
Is it going to be Brown?
I think all signs are pointing to Brown. It makes sense. He has experience. He did a really good job in Sacramento, right? Like they made the playoffs for the first time in a while with him, right?
Yeah, I have retread though.
He is a retread, but at this point, it's kind of late in the game, right? You got to it's already, the draft is passed. The free agency has already started. Like you guys are signing players without a head coach. Like what's happening here? Training camp is in a couple months. What are we doing?
I mean,
what are we doing?
Listen, I don't have.
Don Staley was mentioned.
I said, go out and hire Doris Burke. Go ahead. Just get someone on the sideline.
Listen,
please.
Kendrick Perkins. Hire Kendrick Perkins. Richard Jefferson. Somebody.
I don't think
let's since we're just throwing, we're throwing darts on the wall, right? Like
sticks. All right. Everyone give Jonathan a follow on X. He's always kind enough to join me for a couple moments at John_Marshall3. And of course, does a great job. Writer, anchor, WMUR. Also has the Marshall Time pod. Him and his brother dropped out on SR 1029 FM The Game. When is a new episode going to be dropped?
I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks.
Because
Baby
free
schedule per
agency, come in. You can
man.
only use the kid as an excuse for the first like month.
You're right. You're right. I'm still adjusting to this. It's a grind, Q. Like it's a grind, man.
Hey, I mean, I,
I'm
I
hoping.
warned you. Listen,
I
I
am
warned you.
within the next 2 weeks. I'm hoping.
Listen. I warned you guys years ago. I warned you years ago. You get the career established. Then, if you want to dibble and you want to dance and you want to hang around and smoke and joke, go do all that. Get the career in order
Yes,
first. And you've
yes,
done
it
that for
is
the
true.
most part. But
It is true. That's
you
good
know,
wisdom. Get the career off, then do it. Build what you want to have.
and yeah, and we leave it at that on a
Yeah.
Tuesday. All right, brother. Appreciate you jumping
All
on
right,
board for a
Q.
couple
All
moments.
right, take it easy.
All right, you got it. There's my guy, Jonathan Marshall. Give him a follow on X. He's going to join us next week as well. A lot of NBA comments coming in. Lloyd Vance going to join me right around 5:05. Let me see here. See chiming in. Q, I want to read too much with these individual quotes by Edgecombe during these post-practice avails, but he's looking to be a point guard and develop those skills. All right. Sixers are going to be interesting, as Jonathan mentioned, as long as Embiid is healthy. That's kind of the caveat with the Philadelphia 76ers. All right, quick timeout. 16 $, 60 to play with on a Tuesday edition, Middays with Q. Want to remind everyone, as always, you can get social with us. Follow along on TriX57, Facebook, IG, and X. You got to like, comment, and share their page, please. Log on, TriX57.com. You can follow myself, IG, and X at RichQ on Q. TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. Got a lot of comments coming in. YouTube, Facebook, X. We will dive into those on the other side. Lloyd Vance is going to join us in about 5. We will punch him up. We'll talk a little AFC West with him. We got 60 to play with, and we'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up on a Tuesday. Be right back.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, 5 o'clock, straight up on a Tuesday. Appreciate everyone keeping us tuned in as always. Very busy Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Get in on the conversation. Middays with Q. I'm your host, Rich Quiñones. Some great traction on the TriX57 Facebook Live page. You guys are fantastic. Already seeing these views going nuts. So we appreciate the eyeballs and keeping us locked in. I want to get into some comments as well. Joe D, Summers Point chiming in. Q, do you really think Wilder's going to make a difference with Miami? I don't. I really don't. Unretiring right now, they need a tight end. You got a veteran guy. Is this hard in it? See, that's the problem. You deal with some of these players and they decide in the witching hour that they want to retire, or they decide that They just don't have it in them anymore. I mean, that's you can't be a part-time player, right? And we talk about this with the quarterback position all the time. You're either all in or you're not. And if you're not all in, I can't take a flyer on you. I have to be very, very, very careful. And that was one of my concerns with the Pittsburgh Steelers going after Aaron Rodgers, right? Ben chimes in, Q, you got to be kidding me. Waving Lillard is blank, blank crazy. I mean, it is, but it's not. It is, but it's not. And I'm telling you, you basically think about this, right? Portland and Milwaukee kind of blocked Miami from getting them years ago. I mean, think about that for a moment. Now, here's as it all pans out, he's free to go anywhere he wants, and he's going to get paid. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you about loyalty because yesterday you guys were killing me about LeBron because I was saying the money on the table. All I questioned was, do you really want to win a championship, right? Lyle chimes in, Q, there's no chance that they survive this and Giannis stays. I think you guys are putting a little too much stock into this. Like it's a very unique move and you're paying him. His 2 seasons with Milwaukee, they were unfulfilling at the end of the day. Look, he played when he was healthy, he contributed, but he got injured. And now they look at him as damaged goods and they want to go in a different direction. But I'm telling you, eating $113 million left on a contract it's insane, right? I mean, insane. G chimes in, waving Lillard just to sign Miles Turner is crazy, Q. Guys, it's the NBA, man. I'm not going to tell you if the move makes them better or not, right? It's the NBA. That's all I'm saying. It's the NBA. This is what happens in the NBA. We see goofy moves like this. We do. Now, do we see it in the NFL? Do we see it in the NFL? Well, we do see moves that are at times questionable in the NFL. I think we can all agree. If you're talking about, dealing with contracts, right? That's one thing. If you're really dealing with contracts, then you got to sit there and say to yourself, okay, man, do I really want to take on this contract? Do I want to deal with this guy? It's different in the NFL. It's a different animal in the NFL. And I know people don't want to hear it. It's not the NBA. It's a players league, right? We know that. 7 past 5 o'clock hour as we welcome in our good friend Lloyd Mance, who's just, laps on this Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. I mean, he's ready to go. We don't know where he is today. We know we got the backdrop right there. Are you back in Sukasa or are you, still dealing with the vacay?
I'm home, man. I'm home, ready to roll.
You are home. How about this Waller nonsense, right? I don't want to play with the Giants. Let me retire. Here we go. And now I'm going to hang out in Miami for a little bit. I mean, I can't take this guy serious.
Well, Q, at this stage of his career, there's really not a lot left. He did not play well, finished up with the Raiders, and then he has one season with the Giants. And, yeah, he didn't want to be there. Good, kudos to the Giants that they got something for him, And he's going to go to Miami. We'll see what he has left. But I was talking to some guys, and I don't think there's much left with his legs. So, we'll see after a time off if he can come back. We've seen a couple of guys do that in the past, but usually they're a shell of themselves.
That's always the case, man. I know we talked a little bit about some of the moves over the weekend. I mean, and really what just transpired. What do you make of, speaking of Miami, with the Steelers swapping Ramsey and then Fitzpatrick in the trade? I know we touched on it a little bit. You and I were texting each other, but I mean, right now as it stands, right? So the Dolphins turn around, they trade a 3-time All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey, tight end Jonas Smith to Pittsburgh in exchange for a 3-time All-Pro safety in Fitzpatrick. So, guys going back to kind of where they started here and there. You look at the salary cap, you look at some of the numbers. Is Pittsburgh a better team today? Is Miami a better team today?
I'd say the Steelers are. They wanted Jonnu Smith. They wanted a tight end other than Freiermuth. They wanted to do a lot of 2 tight end formations, and he's going to come in there and help Arthur Smith on the offensive side of the ball. And Ramsey, he wasn't going to be in Miami. He made it abundantly clear, and Stephen Ross knew that. Chris Greer, their general manager down there, knew that, and they found a landing spot for him. So they get Minka Fitzpatrick back to Miami where he started playing, and we'll see if he's still the same guy. I always liked his ability with the Steelers. Last couple of years, he's kind of slipped from his all-pro level. So, but I think I'd have to say the Steelers won that trade because Ramsey, you're going to pair him with Slay. You have Joey Porter Jr. That secondary is going to be very strong.
Do you think they trade TJ Watt to Steelers?
No, I don't think they do. I think it's going to be a situation where they get to training camp and then they'll work something out. He's been such a dominant player for him. Yes, he's getting a little up there in age, but he's a 19-plus sack guy over and over again, and he's the key to that defense. So I think they'll get it done, maybe slide some money forward. He saw what Max Crosby got, and he kind of wants to be in that same neighborhood.
Vince chimes in, if the NFL is hiring guys with substance abuse issues, I think we should all fill out an application. Maybe I can be a GM somewhere. Waller was washed with the Giants. Hey, listen, what you guys do during your day on your time is your business. As long as it doesn't interfere with 4 to 6 Monday to Fridays, we won't have any issues. But that's the NFL. How about Deshaun Watson now trying to be a mentor? I mean, that, when I read that, I'm like, I mean, the jokes kind of write themselves in that regard. There's a little, I guess you can say, buzz that quarterbacking competition, it's not Sanders' job.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun one to watch going into training camp, seeing how they do in the preseason games and who's getting the most reps in training camp. Flacco's going to get his opportunities. Obviously, they brought him back. He led them to the playoffs a couple of years ago. And Sanders and Gabriel, they're rookies. So they haven't been around the league. I do, though, think the odd man out is Kenny Pickett. I just don't think there's much there in terms of his playing ability. And I did think it was funny that Watson is going to mentor him. It's basically show him a blueprint of what not to do. He was right up there his first couple of years in the league. Let's not forget, one of the best quarterbacks, and he just blew it up.
All right, so as we typically do, we go around the league, we break down the divisions. Today, it's pretty simple how the AFC West was won. And I think this is going to be a very compelling division. I pulled up the win totals, and I'll do them right now for everyone chiming in the 5 o'clock hour. Middays with Q. Rich Quiñones here. Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, kind enough to join us. Kansas City, your AFC champ, but runner-ups. 11.5, Chargers 10.5, Broncos 9.5. Got some Broncos fans that chime in. The Raiders at 5.5. So let's start with Kansas City. Obviously trying to get back to the Super Bowl. Very hard to get back to the Super Bowl when you get there and you lose it. We still know that this is a veteran team. Kelsey, Mahomes, the weapons, Andy Reid. I think they're going to get pushed this season in the AFC West by the Denver Broncos. But we're talking about a Chiefs team that typically will win 12, 13, 14 games. The total sits at 11, juiced over 11.5. So are you going to play over? You believe this is a 12-win team as I pull up their schedule, or do you believe they take a step back in the AFC?
Q, you can't bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Look at last year; they were 15-2, and they were not playing their best football. They found a way to win games, and I think they definitely will find a way to win 12 games. The schedule is tough, though. They played 10 teams that were in the playoffs last year. A lot of primetime big spot games, and we'll see if they're up to the task. Now, Patrick Mahomes obviously is back. Rashee Rice, they're hoping that he comes back from that leg injury. They have Worthy, Hollywood Brown. The key thing, though, is the offensive line. Everybody knows that. Going back to the Super Bowl, they drafted Josh Simmons coming over from Ohio State. He did have a knee injury in college. He is looking a lot better and could be ready for training camp. They bring Trey Smith back. And then you have to wonder, how much does Kelsey have left? And Patrick Mahomes, where is he fitting into this thing? They brought Kareem Hunt back. Not a lot of big changes in terms of who they're bringing back. So,
sure.
They're just trying to reload and figure out how to stop the pass rush of opposing teams because everybody's looking at that tape from the Super Bowl what the Eagles did to them.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? And also, too, I mean, think about this. You got a player that had a down year in Chris Jones. I mean, when it was all said and done, right? You got a team that's aging on the defensive side of the ball. That to me is a problem.
Yeah, and it's something they're going to have to watch because age is creeping in the door. You expect these guys to be in the Super Bowl year in and year out, but they were young guys when they first started making this run. Now they're a little older and at key positions, particularly you talk about tight end. Chris Jones is another one. He's up there in age now. Karlaftis, they paid him a ton of money, and they're expecting him to get some pass rush. He's going to need some help though. They bring in Mike Dana over and Nick Bolton. They're going to need him to play better. The secondary is kind of a work in progress. They bring over Christian Fulton. He's coming over from the Chargers. So we'll see how they work out. But I do expect them to be one of the top teams.
Yeah, and they drafted the cornerback out of California in the third round, Williams. They went Simmons, as you mentioned, the tackle out of Ohio State, Norman Lott, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee. They went edge from Louisville in the third round. Open up Chargers, Eagles right away. The Giants, the Ravens, Jacksonville, the Lions. Kind of a mixed bag, right? A test at home, Chargers. Then perhaps the revenge factor, getting blown out in the Super Bowl in a non-competitive game to the Philadelphia Eagles, a bad Giant team. Then the Ravens. I mean, imagine the panic. Now, a couple of years ago, they were 5-4. They lost 2 out of 3, and they were sitting at plus 450 to win the AFC West, and then they promptly won 7 in a row. So, as you said, you don't count them out. They get the NFC East as well. I mentioned the Eagles, the Giants, Commanders, and Dallas. A couple teams from the AFC South to beat up upon. They close with the Titans, the Broncos, the Raiders. Now, I believe they're going to win their 11, 12 games. I think, again, do we agree that we're looking at 11 to 12 Kansas City?
Yeah, Q, I'd have to say yes. And tough schedule. They start in Brazil. Don't forget they play the Chargers week 1. That's a Friday night game, September 5th in Brazil. So they have to travel there, and they got to come right back and host the Eagles in a game they're hoping for revenge. But and then Lamar Jackson week 4, Detroit week 6, Jaden Daniels week 8 at Buffalo, huge game. Former conference championship in week 9. They get the bye week 10. Play Dallas on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So you're going to get to see a lot of this team. But yeah, I do believe in Andy Reid as a veteran coach and getting this roster up together. And they're quite angry because a lot of people were down on them after what happened in the Super Bowl.
Well, they no-showed. I mean, that they no-showed. You got the early bad call down the sideline, and offensively, you thought, here we go again. It's Kansas City's game to win. And then they just got absolutely dominated, thoroughly dominated. The Chargers, I think they're going to be sneaky good. Now, I already told you this last year. I took a flyer on Herbert to win MVP. I'm going to go in a different direction with a quarterback coming out of the AFC West that we'll get into a moment. They're sitting at 10.5. What's interesting to me is the way they open up the schedule. Chiefs, Raiders, Denver. I mean, listen, you want to get tested right away? That's kind of rare. You're going to go right out of the gate, divisional opponents, 3 in the books to start the season.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun team to watch. A lot of expectation around them. Harbaugh's been there now a year, and he's kind of instituted his plan. Joe Hort's coming over from the Ravens. They did have a lot of former Ravens, but some of those guys have moved on. Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, but they were trying to get the toughness with this squad. In terms of the Chargers, does Herbert have enough weapons around him? They have Quentin Johnson. They're kind of underachieved, some drops in his pass. They're bringing Mike Williams back from the Jets, who really didn't do a lot last year. Trey Harris, they're bringing him in as a 2nd-round pick. All eyes are going to be on Ladd McConkey to see if he can step up and be that number 1 receiver for them. I'm really interested to see about their running back, Omarion Hampton, that they brought in from North Carolina in the 1st round, a dynamic kid that can catch the ball and do a lot of things that Eckler used to do in the past. Offensive line, they've been tinkering with that as well. They're bringing in Mekhi Becton. But Herbert has got to play to that. He's got a high price tag, Q. And people have always compared him to all the top 5 guys like Joe Burrow, Mahomes, and them. So he's got to step up. So this is going to be a fun team to watch. 10.5, though. Last year, 11-6. I'm going to go under. I think maybe they win 10 games and they'll be in the fight for that number 7 spot in the AFC. But Yeah, I think that may be high a little bit, asking for 11 wins out of his team.
They were kind of the team you don't want to see in the playoffs. Like Herbert played really well the last 3 weeks of the season. He had 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, and that was in the wild win against Denver, 34-27. But he threw for 294, 291, 346. But again, what have you done for me lately? Like, you're on the mound. I'm going to remember your last outing. You're just as good as your last performance. He really just stunk up the joint. He had the 4 picks against Houston. He was sacked all over the place. They had to play from behind early on in that game. You put him in a different spot. They were blitzing. They were sending guys. He had no protection whatsoever. They need, again, AFC West. They're going to beat the hell out of each other up. You got to keep them upright offensive line. But to your point, I think there's a lot of pressure on him and Harbaugh. The expectation is, yeah, you got to the playoffs, really push Kansas City, try to be that sleeper team coming out of the AFC West. I think the way the division is going to play out, I'm leaning under, and I can see them with 9 wins, to be honest with you, which, speaking of which, leaves us to the Denver Broncos, 9.5. Now, I'm a Bo Nix guy. I'm not the biggest Sean Payton fan, but I will say this. I like Bo Nix. I think he's a sleeper to be a dark horse MVP candidate. He's got the size, he's got the arm, he's got the gumption. He's got a head coach that's entrusting him to throw the ball down the field. I don't know if they're just too young at this moment. Now, I think they get a break because they open up the season against the Titans and the Colts. Now, if they beat the Chargers, now you're sitting at 3-0, where you might get a wild, high-scoring game against Cincinnati. But they're going to be tested. The Chargers, Cincinnati, then they've got the Eagles, the Jets, and the Giants. And the Cowboys. You're talking, if they can come out of the gate 5-3, 6-2, and maybe Kansas City stumbles a little bit, they're going to be the talk of the AFC and maybe the NFL. And I know, last year we look at these teams, Lloyd, we say to yourself, okay, here we go. Are you ready to take it to the next level? The last game of the season, Kansas City had nothing to play for, and they waxed them. But it kind of came home the roost against Buffalo in that wild card game where they just were not competitive. They just got overwhelmed. And remember, too, they took the lead early in that game 7-3, and that was it. Buffalo scores 28 unanswered points, and they beat them 31-7. Do you think that helped them last year going into the season mature a little bit?
I think, Sean Payton is definitely going to reevaluate things after a 31-7 loss in a wild card round. And they said, okay, we're good, but we're not great. We're not in that upper echelon of Buffalo and Kansas City. And good story last season, 10-7, total turnaround. and make the playoffs probably a year early in my estimation, Q. So they do have some weapons in Cortland Sutton and Mims, and they're bringing Brian over in the third round. Evan Ingram, this is where he's landing.
Huge pickup, by the way. Huge.
I like that for Bo Nix, and he's going to be, with Adam Troutman, they'll have those 2 tight end sets. And Nix, you talked about what a great season he had last year, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and he just did not play like a young rookie. So he's going to get his opportunities out there. They're bringing in R.J. Harvey coming in, one of the best backs in the draft last season in the second round. Mike McGlinchey and that offensive line have got to improve. And defensively, Vance Joseph did a great job with this group. They only allowed 18 points per game. So, with Surtain the second and the rest of those guys, that defense is going to be flying around. So, interesting team to watch. Joe Lombardi, another former Saints guy, he's coming over to be the offense coordinator. And, I want to see early on in the season, can they take advantage of Tennessee, Indianapolis, and get off to a hot start, and then that'll help springboard them. But I think they can get to that 9.5 number. I do believe in the same process as you were saying with Nix, and Sean Payton's been around this league. He knows how to win.
Are we looking at, when we talk about these quarterbacks taking the next step, right? And we look at what they do in year number 1 as rookie quarterbacks. This kid got thrown to the wolves, thrown to the fire, but he played really, really well. And we know that Sean Payton is a guy that, this is his kind of type of quarterback. He's built, he's got accuracy, he's a tough kid. He didn't get sacked a lot. He's only sacked 24 times. The offensive line did a really good job of keeping him upright. But is this now 4,300 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 picks? Like now lead them to 10, 11 wins, push Kansas City. Are we looking now? Is he a franchise quarterback? I mean, we saw what he did his rookie season, but you believe this kid's going to be a 10-year plus vet with Denver, be a franchise quarterback. And as far as the projections, can you see 4,300, 35 touchdowns in 2025?
I could see definitely ascension in his numbers, and as he was real close last year, 3,700
Mm-hmm.
and some change.
Yeah.
So I think he can get that 4,000 yards plateau. Peyton is letting him cut it loose, and you talk about Ingram coming over there to team with Sutton and the rest of the guys. R.J. Harvey, as I talked about, also J.K. Dobbins. So they're going to try to establish that running game, get the play action that Lombardi loves so much, and then let Knicks drive the football down the field. So as long as the line can play like they did last year, and there were some question marks on the line after Cushenberry left and he went to Tennessee, but they did a nice job filling the gaps, and we'll see how these turn out. But yeah, Denver, I think, is going to be a fun team to watch. They're young, they're exciting, and they seem to be ascending.
Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us for a couple moments. Give him a follow on X at Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football every Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 to 9 on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game joins me right here during the football season on middays. And, of course, Back Your Play, our gambling pod as well. All right, you got the Raiders to close things out. They are sitting at, let me pull up the Raiders numbers. I had it in a moment. 5.5. Which is really, really low. But again, everyone thinks that the Raiders are rebuilding a little bit. I think it's probably contingent upon the quarterback play, but where are you at right now with the Raiders?
Yeah, the Raiders, they're trying to bring some discipline in there. They're bringing in Pete Carroll and John Spytek coming over, a general manager from Tampa Bay. So they're trying to build this roster back up. They jettisoned a lot of guys, and they're just trying to change the culture. So Geno Smith coming over, was the rebirth in Seattle true or not? Now we're going to see. He gets traded to the Raiders, and he's firmly the quarterback in command. And they have Trey Tucker. They drafted Jack Beck, Jacoby Myers that we know from the past, and they also brought in Dante Thornton. So they're trying to clean up that receiver room. Offensive line, question mark there. You have a couple guys like Colton Miller that have been there for a while. But other than that, you wonder, okay, who else is there? But one thing, the bright spot for them is Brock Bowers. I mean, he was all-world as a rookie, incredible. I mean, setting numbers. And I think already he's top 5 in terms of the tight ends out there. And now you're adding Ashton Genty, one of the best backs coming out of NCAs in such a long time. So I think you're going to try to get Genty the ball. And then defensively, Max Crosby needs some help. A lot of fill-in type guys around him, though. Devin White, Alander Roberts coming over, and Eric Stokes coming over from Green Bay. So we'll see how that defense gels. But I think the offense is going to put up some points. I can't hear you, Q.
The only controversy for Genty is that he would stand upright, right? He's 5'8". So, I mean, when he was at Boise State, his stance, so to speak, he's 5'8", because he wanted to kind of get a better view of the defense. I saw him on Up and Adams, and they were kind of cracking jokes. Now, Chip Kelly's got him, again, using that normal stance with his hands on his thighs, because, again, now you can kind of explode off the base. I think the kid's going to be a player. I think ultimately, though, if the Raiders are going to have any level of success, and I know it's, you guys probably know where I'm going with this. It's almost kind of beating a dead horse, but it's to the point where what are you going to get from the quarterback? Are you going to get a guy that resurrected his career in Seattle? Or, I mean, is Geno Smith, if you get Geno Smith in Seattle the last several years, then I think they're going to be able to score some points and move the football. I guess at times, though, he had a down year last year. He had 21 touchdowns. He had 15 picks. And Lloyd, he's been sacked 3 years. The last 3 years in Seattle, he was sacked 125 times. That worries me a little bit.
Yeah, he's going to need to have protection. And as you said, very inconsistent with all those interceptions, making bad decisions with the football. I watched a lot of Seattle's games, and you're like, what are you doing? Sometimes you're just trying to fit the ball in bad spots, and now he's going to be facing some better defenses in the AFC West.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, they're going to put pressure on him, and he's going to have to make good decision with the football. I think first and foremost, Chip Kelly, as you're saying, coming in offense coordinator, he's going to hand the ball off to Ashton Genty. I also got Raheem Mostert coming over from the Dolphins. We'll see what he has left. 5.5. Last year they were 4-13. So yeah, so you figure, all right, they'll hit that number. You know what I mean? I think it may be a push, but I think they'll get that 1.5 more wins. But the schedule's not going to be easy. Now, first and foremost, they got to do better in the division, Q. They were
That's
0-6
where I was
in
going.
the division. They play 9 playoff teams this year. We're going to know very early about this team. They're at New England. Okay, that's a coin flip game. Chargers
Yep.
at Washington. That's going to be a tough game. They have Kansas City in week 7, and they finally get their bye. And then, are they better than Denver? That's going to be fun to see. How they're going to compete against this up-and-coming Denver team week 10
mentioned
and week 14. Yep.
Yeah, at New England, right? Then the Chargers, but let's not gloss over at Washington, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Tennessee. Those are winnable games. You got 2 to 3 winnable games right there. Now, I think 5.5. You would think on merit they should get to 6 wins, but they have to win games in their division. They were just, you go back last year and you watch them. First of all, they had issues at the quarterbacking. I mean, think of all the quarterbacks they started. Minshew, they started O'Connell, they started Ritter a game, but they won 2 out of 3 after they had that losing streak. So, I think there's something to be said about the Raiders, and it is appealing with a guy like Geno Smith, a guy that's kind of resurrected his career. If you're not going to win those divisional games, you are going to be in trouble. Period. Vince chimes in, out of here, Q. You high talking about Nick's MVP with 27 touchdowns. That's not what I said. See, this is what I'm saying. Did they not listen? Do we have to mark the tape? I said taking a flyer on him as a dark horse MVP if he's 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, and they win 10, 11 games. I'm going to, you know what? Because Vince fired off the shot, I'm saying it right now. I'm going on the record. So de facto, if you want to mark the tape right now. July 1st, the Denver Broncos are going to win the AFC West. Mark the tape. The Denver Broncos are going to win the AFC West right now. I'm telling you this. I think Kansas City's taken a step back. I like the way that Denver's been constructed. And I think the sneaky move is Ingram. I think he's going to open up that offense. I really do. Kansas City's getting old, man. The days of Kansas City just deciding to just turn it on when they want to turn it on, it's not happening. It's
Vance Joseph in that defense.
Not happening. No.
They're going to have to get that pressure on Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs, you always pencil them in, because it's been 7 years in a row they've won this division. But you have been waiting for somebody to step forward. And you got Sean Payton, a former Super Bowl winner. He knows how to win in this league. So it's going to be fun to see how this all plays out between Denver and Kansas City. It's week 11 at Denver, and it may come down to week 17 in Kansas City. But the Chiefs are so tough at home. That's the other big thing. 5-1 in division, 8-0 at home. So if they're hoping to win this division from the Chiefs, they're going to have to steal that game.
I think they will.
City, and Kansas City's going to have to falter against some of these visiting teams.
And I'm going to
that championship DNA though. Last year, we always talked about block field goal, return kick for a touchdown, all kinds of stuff.
Sure. And one of those games was against Denver. But I'm also going to bring something up that no one's talking about. Kansas City, remember years ago when we said that the 49ers broke the back of the Philadelphia Eagles? Remember that? Right?
Yeah.
They broke the back of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles broke the Kansas City dynasty. They destroyed them in the Super Bowl. They flat out destroyed them in the Super Bowl. And I'm telling you right now, I don't believe that Kansas City, because they're older, it's come easy to them. They've got a little Golden State arrogance to them. Everyone can talk about Kansas City and the last ride and Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid. They got absolutely destroyed last year in that Super Bowl. And I don't know how you recover from that. So again, I will say it again. The Denver Broncos My Denver Broncos, led by Bo Nix, and my Washington Commanders, led by Jaden Daniels, and my Giants, led by, forget about Russell Wilson cooking, they are going to win the AFC West. And I'm going to tell you too, Lloyd, bookmark this game as well. And I pulled it up. Give me 1 second. I want to get back to the AFC West. Bookmark this game right now, because it's probably going to be a game that's already at 8 o'clock, and it should be. That game, Denver is going to grow up on the road December 25th against Kansas City. That's going to be the game that's going to clinch the division.
Yeah, week
That's
seven.
going to be the game.
Yeah,
Bo
it's gonna
Nix, odds plus 7,500. There you go. There you go.
gonna
Take a flyer on Bo Nix.
You know, in its year two, we always said about receivers taking that big leap in year two. You know, we've seen quarterbacks do in the past. Think about Ben Roethlisberger. Think about Dan Marino leading his team to a Super Bowl in his second season. They just come more comfortable in that offense, and now you have Lombardi over there, Sean Payton, that are going to work with him. And I'm expecting, you know, some dynamic plays from this team. So they like to throw the ball down the field, I expect that a lot.
Yeah, Scott chimes in. How about any concerns with their defense, Denver's defense?
Yeah, they're going to need to get some more pass rush. You know, they bringing in Dre Greenlaw coming over at linebacker. You see what he has left. The defensive ends, you're like, all right, you need some more pressure out of John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen, and that defensive line has got to step up. But the linebackers play very well. You're going to have
They do.
Greenlaw. You're getting Alex Singleton back. And then obviously Patrick Surtain, the second's one of the best in the league. They bring Hufanga coming over from the Niners too at safety. A lot of moving pieces with this team. And then you talk about Jahdae Barron. I hope I said that right. First round pick this season they're bringing over as well. So they're doing a lot with that defense. And Vance Joseph's done a nice job with that.
Yeah, and Cooper's a good linebacker. Cooper's a really good line. Jonathan Cooper, man, he had 10.5 sacks. I think the Raiders are going to win some games. Okay. I'm not confident playing their over in the win total. And again, maybe people will say July 1st, Q, you're way too high on the Denver Broncos. Now, you know me. I was a Bo Nix guy. You know, I was like, hey, if the Giants have an opportunity, go and grab this kid. That wasn't the case. But you brought up a very good point. We talk about the progressions from year number 1 to year number 2. We're going to see it in Washington with Daniels. You know, Stroud was a different animal. Love's still the verdict's out, but I think everything's in place for Nix. I think the expectations are very high for Denver because they've been waiting for that quote next franchise quarterback, right? You got Peyton with the bad neck, but he still comes off that MVP season after he's unceremoniously released by the Colts. Other than that, you have to go through the litany of quarterbacks over the years, right? Bo Nix can be that guy who's under center for 10, 11, 12 years. Now, the Chargers are going to push a little bit. See, that's the uniqueness of the division. Teams are getting better, whereas Kansas City, and you brought it up at the start of the segment, what has Kansas City really done that makes you say, man, they are so much better today than they were last year? What have they done?
Yeah, if you really look at it, you know, they get rid of Joe Thuney, who was an all-pro at guard. Yeah, they wanted him out the door after he played terrible at tackle. I mean, that was their mistake putting him out there. And you know, we'll see about the knee injury with Moore. You know, that was big at Ohio State. He's a big hulking player, but is he going to be able to come back? We talk about Rice and his injury. And then the defense, you know, the Eagles were able to pick them apart. So Spagnuolo's got to change his playbook. They can't just go with the same thing over and over again. And then recently I saw Patrick Mahomes, Q. He looked like he was a little out of shape. So, you know, they got to get ready because everybody's still coming for him. The bullseye is on the back of this team.
If you look at the AFC, and I told you, I thought Buffalo is the most complete team in the AFC. Yes, Kansas City is still Kansas City. We know that, but you still have to play the games on Sundays, right? And Mahomes has been a little banged up. Kelsey, the other thing that worries me if I'm a Kansas City fan, you know, to talk about Kelsey kind of flirting with retirement here and there. Is he shot? Is he cooked? Does he have anything left? I mean, is he a full-time player? Is he going to really be committed? He's getting up there in age. Look, he's an all-time great. He's a Hall of Fame player. Even on his worst season, he's still top 3, 4, 5 tight ends in the leagues. But you see the drop in production over the last several years. You can't ignore that. He goes from 110 catches to 93 to 97. The yards are down, the touchdowns are down. And then ultimately, too, when do we really look at him? Come playoff time. He didn't do much against Buffalo, and he really didn't do anything against the Eagles. And honestly, in a game that was against Houston, yeah, he had the touchdown. But, Mahomes of him and had such a run with Andy Reid. And I think sometimes you got the young bucks, you got the young horses. You have teams that are so familiar with you and they're trying to get over the hump. They're trying to get over the hump. Denver's kind of been the little kid, Chargers the little kid, the Raiders been the little kid on the yard getting bullied by Kansas City all those years. And now I think it's their turn to start doing the bullying.
Yeah, Q, you and I know from the NFC East, all those years the Dallas Cowboys were dominant, and all the other teams were kind of sitting there waiting, and then they found a formula to beat them, and namely it was, the Giants. You know what I mean? The Giants and their pressure on a quarterback that changed things around with that Dallas team, and I don't know if Kansas City's fixed that problem, and that was a big hole in the Super Bowl, and they're going to look at the tape. They're going to say, okay, we're not afraid of them anymore. You use that bully reference. Okay, they can be beaten. Yes, they've won a lot of Super Bowls and they've been a champions past, but we know every year in the Super playoffs things change in the National Football League. So they're definitely the hunted, and they're a little older, as you said. Kelsey's not seeing the open windows that he used to. He can't work himself free. They got to work rubs and all kinds of trick plays in there to get him open. And you wonder, okay, is Noah Gray ready to step in for him? And I don't know if he is.
And again, the other thing is when you've won so much and it's been easy, and I get it, you can't give him the ball. You still got, man, teams, quarterbacks, they get old fast. Now, Mahomes, I'm not suggesting that Mahomes is getting old fast. I'm not. But his numbers, he took a lot of hits last year. The offensive line was a major point of emphasis in the offseason. He got sacked 36 times. That was a career high. His numbers dipped as far as yards. His numbers dipped when it came to pass attempt, completion percentage, and everything kind of dipped. And even his interceptions went up a little bit. Touchdowns went down. Your days of your 38-6, 41-10, I think Mahomes now is at 26-10, 27-10 type of quarterback, right around 4,000 yards, which is a very good quarterback by NFL standards. But the offensive line concerns me. And again, I go back to what the Eagles were able to do in the Super Bowl. They absolutely harassed him big time. You sit there and say, well, he was sacked. No. He was sacked 6 times and he was running for his life. It's exactly what Tampa Bay did to him a couple years ago with Brady and the like. And I think this is a season that it all comes to a head. Now, I'm not going to suggest that this team's missing the playoffs. That's foolish. But I think they're going to get a run for their money in the AFC and in the AFC West. Now, with that being said, I'm going on the record. I like the Denver Broncos to win the division. Who do you like to win the division?
Yeah, I still think that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get done, but it's not going to be the Angels in the outfield like last year where they're winning these games as close and everybody's questioning the officials and everything. It's going to be tight, Q. It may come down to that Week 17 game that we referenced earlier, and I think they are getting closer to the pack. So I say they'll win it barely, but changing the guard is coming over the next couple seasons.
By the way, Mets postponed, Phillies as well. Split doubleheader tomorrow, 110, 710. Mets put it out there in the count. If you look at the AFC at this moment, if we kind of quickly handicap it, Kansas City, Buffalo, if I'm going with Denver out of the AFC West, that tells you that I think I'm pretty high on Denver coming out of the AFC. By default, the AFC South, we talked a little bit about that. Houston, and again, they don't really scare me. I don't think they should scare a lot of players or a lot of teams, I should say. Then you've got the AFC North. Baltimore is still there. I mean, look around right now. You probably have 3 or 4 really good teams. And then I think you've got a lot of, I don't want to say competitive balance, Lloyd, but I'd say maybe teams that are just not on that tier. Like Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore. I'm going to put Denver there. And let's just say Houston by default of the South. Should we throw Cincinnati, assuming that their defense shows up this season?
Yeah, I would add Cincinnati to the mix. They obviously got to figure out what's going on with Hendrickson and his contract, but they're a dangerous team. As long as they don't get off to that 0-3 start, they'll be in the mix. And yeah, I do agree with you. It's very top heavy. Kansas City, Baltimore. You already know they're going to be there. Buffalo as well. So but there's 7 spots up for grabs, and we know every year there's 4 new teams in the playoffs. So I do think that Denver is going to take a step forward, and some of these other teams, but it's going to be very competitive in AFC.
I want to pull this up real quick because I got Kevin and Jackson asking. I have Salim asking. And I have Maddie in Delaware asking. So this is right now. I'm going to give you the date. Okay. This is updated 2025 NFL MVP odds. I will throw to you. Who do you think are the top 3 right now as far as the best odds to win league MVP?
Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes.
Joe Burrow.
Oh, Joe Burrow.
Jackson is at plus 550. Allen's at plus 550. Burrow's at plus 650. Mahomes is at plus 700. Now, the reason I bring that up, it kind of tells you where the betting public's thinking too. Daniels is at plus 750. Now you've got a major jump. From Daniels, it goes to Hurts plus 1,700. Then it goes to Herbert. Then it goes to Stroud, Love, Mayfield, Murray, Williams, Prescott, Love, Purdy, Bronco. The other thing is, what's the trend here? They're all freaking quarterbacks. I don't see Saquon Barkley. I don't listen, non-quarterback. Again, he's at plus 5,000. Derrick Henry's at plus 6,000, but Stafford is at plus 3,500. Knicks is at plus 3,500. I'm telling you right now, take a flyer on Knicks and Murray. But it shows you what also the betting public is starting to think about Patrick Mahomes, right? Because typically he would be right there, number 1.
Yeah, and you'd always say, okay, he's going to be in the mix, but last year they're winning games, but was because of him or the team around him, and he didn't play MVP like, you know what I mean? And in his Super Bowl, he did not play MVP like, and it also in terms of running backs, yeah, they should be in the mix and receivers, but we know it's a quarterback award, so it's not going to be one of them guys.
Listen, they're playing with fire. They beat Baltimore by 7. They beat Cincinnati by 1. They beat Atlanta by 5. They beat the Chargers by 10. They beat Tampa in overtime. They beat Denver by 2. That was the block field goal. They lost to Buffalo. They beat Carolina by 3. Vegas by 2. Chargers by 2. Houston by a touchdown. And then, obviously they no-showed it against Denver to rest all their starters en route to 15-2. That franchise, that team is leaking oil. If you play them for 60 straight up, you can beat them. They're not going to be a 15-win team. They're not, which kind of leads into this. Scott wants to know AFC sleepers. Who are the AFC sleepers? Because one team always comes out of nowhere. So right now, I ask you, if we look at the AFC and kind of handicap it from a sleeper standpoint, is Denver too obvious if I say that?
Yeah, I would say let's cap it at 9 playoff teams.
So you got Miami, the Jets, New England. Well, Cincinnati, you can't throw there because they won 9 games and it's still Burrow. Cleveland, the Colts, Jacksonville, Vince's ears perking up, the Titans, or the Raiders.
Yeah, and if I'd say 9 playoff teams, okay. We figure the Bengals will be back because last season they got off to
but there's right. So get rid of the Bengals. That's a caveat. Yeah. That's not fair.
I'll say the New England Patriots. We talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago with the Patriots. I think with Drake May, they're bringing in Vrabel in terms of that toughness and adding some discipline to that team. I think they can sneak in and be a wild card coming out of the AFC East.
Wow. So New England opens the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Panthers. So let's say they get off to that nice start, that quote, nice story. They beat the Raiders. They go on the road. They beat Miami. They beat a Pittsburgh team in flux. They beat Carolina. Heck, maybe they're 3-0. If they're 4-0, they're to start, they're the story early on of the season. But then they travel up to Buffalo. Now, you go on the road. It's a little different in October than December, late November in Buffalo. If they beat the Bills and they're a 4-1, 5-0 team, I think you're on to something. Here's my only issue with New England, and I'm a fan of Drake May, but I'm looking around. Diggs is getting older. Williams is consistent. We know about their running backs. I mean, do they have offensive weapons? Is their offense? Do you believe their offense has to carry them, or their defense has to carry them?
Well, they're going to need their offense to put up some points, and that's why they're bringing in Diggs, and they brought in a couple players in the draft. They signed a lot of guys in terms of free agency. But that defense is Vrabel's calling card. They just underachieved under Mayo. So I think the defense does get better, but they are going to need the offense to be way more explosive than they have in the past.
Are we talking definitely 25 to 28 points a game?
No, I think Vrabel wants to beat teams, 24-21. You know what I mean? If they can hold the opposition to about 21 or less points, that'll be a good thing for that defense.
Okay, so let me see. We're going to say, so you're saying get over 21 points. That's your cap offensively.
Yeah, they definitely need that, but they're going to need that running game as well. They're going to have a running game.
Their first 7 games last year, they scored 16, 20, 3, 13, 10, 21, 16.
Yeah, and that's why, they get rid of Gerard Mayo
and they had, and by the way, their quarterback was Brissett. Then they went to May.
Yeah, and Alex Van Pelt. They bring in, McDaniels back to run the offense, and he's not a good head coach, but he knows how to run an offense. So I think they will be much better in those numbers that you pointed out.
All right. So we got the AFC West in the books. We got some sleepers. Let me get a couple of comments in here real quick. This is franchise chiming in from Delaware. Go figure. Q Lloyd, always good to hear you guys talk a little football. What do you make of my Ravens coming out of the North? Is it Super Bowl or bust for Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson?
It is. They got to have playoff success. They have to compete with Buffalo. They have to beat Kansas City. And Lamar Jackson, he's going to put up those huge MVP type numbers, but it's always going to be all right. Get it done when it matters most. But I like the team that they're building there. I mean, they had another good draft, in my opinion. The offense is feeling real healthy. They have Derrick Henry for another season. Got to get some more production out of the receivers. And Andrews, obviously, you want more, as he's aging.
Jay, Jets fan in North Jersey, chimes in. Guys, who do you think puts up better numbers this season, Aaron Rodgers or Justin Fields? I feel like everyone's kind of asked us that question.
Yeah, I saw something online and I got an email. That's a tough one. I think Fields is going to put up some nice numbers, but they're not going to win as many games. You may see, Rodgers in terms of being a game manager. Now he gets Jonnu Smith there to kind of work the middle. They have DK Metcalf, the deep roots, and they're going to need to improve that offensive line. But they're going to run the football with that rookie that they brought over from Iowa. And the Steelers are going to be a physical team. So if you're looking at numbers, fantasy football-wise, go with Fields. But in terms of real football and wins, I say, Rodgers will have a better season.
All right, and then let me get one more in here. Cappy chimes in. Guys, Pittsburgh fan, what do you think the realistic expectations stat-wise are for Watt, depending upon if he's still on the team or not? So obviously he's saying, look, don't trade TJ Watt. I mean, I haven't even looked at those types of props. I mean, I would think if he's engaged and they pay him and they take care of him, he should be good for at least 12, 13 sacks, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say 15. He's that type of explosive player. They know how to free him up on the outside. They also have Highsmith and Hayward's back for another season. So I think the Steelers defense is still going to be attacking. So he's going to get his numbers.
All right, a couple minutes to play with before we get out of here. Don't forget, give Lloyd a follow on X at Lloyd Vance. Tune in every Monday, 8 to 9. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. He joins me every Tuesday, Thursday in the 5 o'clock hour. BYP will be released as well as we start to look at some of these divisions with the totals and win totals from an odds perspective as well. We'll drop that on Buzzsprout and of course, Amazon Music and Spotify. All right, my friend. I appreciate you swinging on by. Excellent stuff. Good conversation. Always appreciate the insight. So you're going to go with Kansas City out of West. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix potential, the MVP. We will do it again on Thursday. Always appreciate a couple moments, pal.
All right, Q. Thanks, Samuel.
All right, there you have it. My guy, Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us for a couple of minutes. Quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll reset the table and we'll close things out on what's turned out to be a very, very busy Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. Keep it locked in. As I promised you, we'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pascoe. I'm very fortunate. Years ago, I found something that I genuinely like to do, and it's something that helps other people. What I do is help people transition from traditional health insurance into Medicare. I've been doing it here in Atlantic County for more than 20 years. If you're getting ready for Medicare, call me for a free consultation. 609-484-9800.
This is what the Down Beach Seafood Fest is all about. It's about community, it's about friends, it's about culture, right? The food culture in Atlantic County is rich.
All right, a couple minutes before we get out of here. So the Yankees, right? Good job scratching out a couple in the first. They're losing 9-4. My God. They just stink. It's beyond frustrating, man. It really is. Let me pull up Judge 2 for 2. Still having a monster season, batting .358. They just got problems top to bottom with their lineup. I told you the Phils and the Mets both postponed. Let me give you the Q-fecta of plays as well before we get out of here. I wanted to go with the Phillies, but can't really do much with that. So we're going to call an audible at the line, right? We'll go I don't like the pitching matchups tonight. Holmes and Anderson. I will take the Braves, though, minus 200 on the money line against the Angels. Not a bad little run with the Cubbies. They got Boyd on the hill, 7-3, 2.45 ERA, minus 190. So we'll grab them. And just because we've been absolutely red hot with the WNBA, 8-4 over the last 12, we are going to go with the Fever. Give me the 10.5 against Minnesota. The Lynx have been playing really well. 2 in a row, 5 of 6. The voting's out as well with the WNBA, and I think Clark's going to be out for the Commissioner's Cup. I want to squeeze in 1 or 2 more comments. Joe D again, Summers Point chiming in on the Beasley scandal. Q, do you think this is trickled down to those super max types of players, the guys that we would come on the air and say, oh my God, I can't believe this guy got caught? If you're asking me if I think a SGA or a Giannis or a Harden or an Embiid or a Brunson, any of these guys would ever get caught up in something like this, I think the likelihood, I think it would be highly unlikely. But I've also learned to never put anything past anyone, because at the end of the day, everyone's human. They make mistakes. And as Jonathan said, the vices, right? I mean, it's definitely tough to work around that or deal with that. So that's something that I would just be wary of. I still believe that there's a major problem in the NBA with this, and it's not going to go away. We'll wait to see exactly what comes out from this investigation. But overall, it's just a very extremely busy day. An extremely busy day with free agency. I mean, the buzz going around, Giannis wants out right now, or the Knicks going to be in play. What's going on with LeBron? We talked a little bit about that the other day. I think Damian Lillard's going to have an opportunity to play for Miami. They're going to probably, they're going to pay him. And remember, too, what happened a couple of years ago when the Miami Heat and the Knicks were kind of blocked from DL. So it's the money in these contracts are absolutely staggering in the NBA. Staggering. That's why it goes back to where we started with the Beasley conversation. You're making a significant amount of money. You're weighing your risk to reward, right? your risk to reward, is it really worth it for a couple dollars? And if you're strapped, that's one thing. If you got an addiction, you got a compulsive gambling problem, that's another thing. If you're behind, that's another thing. So we really just do not know at this standpoint. All right, as we start to wrap it up tomorrow, we'll get into a little baseball. Steve Gardner later in the week. Lloyd's going to join us again on Thursday. Costco as well. I want to keep getting into college football, breaking down some of these conferences and get Costco's thoughts. Also, on Friday, John Bueller from Fansided. I will mix in a little boxing talk tomorrow with the news that Jake Paul is now ranked. So we'll talk a little sweet science tomorrow on a Wednesday. As always, don't forget, get social with us at TriX57. Log on to TriX57.com. Got a lot of interaction on the Facebook page. Like, comment, and share. Always do that. We want you guys to get social with us. So as I mentioned, it's real easy. IGX and online at TriX57.com. Myself, Rich Q on Q, on TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. You can catch us Monday to Friday. As soon as the show's over, it's right up on demand, not only in the YouTube channel, on X, and of course, TriX57.com. Good stuff from Jonathan Marshall from WMUR, Lloyd Vance from Lloyd Vance's Inside